Welcome to Soulful. Whether you're navigating challenges or celebrating victories,
We're here to remind you that every step on your path is meaningful. I'm Tiff.
and I'm Jess.
So let's clear our mind as we fill our soul.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Soulful. I'm Jess, and always I'm here with Tiff.
Hi.
So it has been, it's been actually quite a while. It's been a few weeks since we've got a chance to sit and chat. So I guess in true fashion, let's just start with a check-in. How has the past few weeks been? Anything exciting, new, old, whatever you want to share with us, Tiff.
Yeah. Yes, it's great to be in this space again. Well, the country concert that I talked about in either the last episode or the
Mm.
one before, it is upon us. So I am heading to Toronto tomorrow, dropping off my kiddo for a weekend downtown Toronto with his aunt. Definitely feeling a bit nervous. First time leaving him, especially in a different place.
Mhm, mhm.
We're going to be just outside Toronto, but I know he's in good hands and they're going to have a ton of fun. But yeah, so getting really excited for that. We haven't done something like this in a while, and my mom's like, "Yeah, go have fun." I was like, "Well, I'm most excited about the pool, and I'm not even gonna lie, I'm so excited to go swimming and get in the hot tub and just like live my best mermaid life."
I love that.
Country concert will be fun too, but yeah. Otherwise, things have been, I guess, pretty status quo. But yeah, no, just supporting my kid back to school, supporting all my jobs, trying to keep my house clean,
Mm.
trying hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually not trying hard. That's a lie. But anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much it. What about you?
Like, I don't really ever try to keep my house clean, honestly. And I'm grateful that, okay, I heard this thing. It was like, it takes a village or whatever. And I don't have kids, but I truly believe that it takes a village for like anybody to do all of the things, regardless of like, what it is that you're trying to do. So, yeah, the cleaning part is one thing that I'm very thankful for my village, because that was not one thing that was ever a priority of mine. It's mostly like being attentive and present and supporting the things that make me money and all of that stuff. It was never keeping a clean house. So I feel that one. Yeah, so for me, you said status quo, and I think that that's kind of what I'll use as well. Everything feels pretty status quo for the most part. Um, what even happened? I don't even remember the last time. It's been a bit. I went to a concert this weekend. That was fun. And now suffering the consequences, I think, of that or something, anyways, because I've picked up a bug or something, so I might be sounding a little bit hoarse or coughing or maybe sneezing through the recording. So, um, but yeah, other than that, I guess really just for me too, just trying to lean more into the gratitude of having capacity and the motivation and the self-discipline to do the things that I need and I want to do. um yeah, I was in a space of really um I think I was in a space of like repeating lots of the chaos, like, and kind of like being really lost within it, and I think I was like perpetuating the cycle of that for myself a little bit. And I had a conversation with like a mentor of mine, and like I know it's like it's okay to to express that and to like talk about it. um but I don't know, maybe there was some merit to what they shared. So I've been trying to like do less of that and more of the gratitude for having the capacity and the motivation and the self-discipline to do the thing. Yeah, it's an affirmation of mine now for maybe forever. We'll see how long it takes for me to
I was
get
gonna
it.
say you're saying it with conviction, so I believe you. I
Yeah.
believe you.
That's what they say, right? You have to say it like you mean it.
Yeah, power of our
um
words.
yeah, exactly. So anyways, um what else? Yeah, that's it. I think maybe we can it kind of feels a little weird. It's like I don't even remember how to do this anymore. Um it's like I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, oh right, my mic. I have to plug my mic in. And then like I got the wrong because I have a Mac and I don't have like USB cords on thing. And then I had to go get my adapter. I'm like, oh yeah, I really need to do that. And then it has like it was just a really weird thing. I was like, it feels like it's been so long. And I forgot how to do all the things. So um
Yay!
yeah. Yeah, it's but luckily I haven't forgotten how to talk, so I guess that's like the most important part.
I
Oh,
mean, I'd be pretty hard pressed if either one of us forgot how to talk.
that's
I
true.
think pigs would be flying somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. I was in a session like not very long, maybe a couple of weeks ago for work, and we were talking about like signs of stress and like how you identify stress. And someone was like, well, I'm typically like a really like quiet person. And so like sometimes when I get really anxious or get overwhelmed and stressed, I like talk a lot and like I'm more like kind of frantic than what I normally am. And I was like, oh, I can't relate to that. I'm like the complete opposite. If I'm quiet, you probably want to check on me. But it's true. It's
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, man.
I can relate.
Too funny.
Chatty Cathy as we are. All
Yeah,
right.
it's true. All right, so I guess yeah, we can just jump into today's topic. And what I will say or share is that the topic today wasn't one that really, I guess, like stood out or hit me like the others have in the past. I just think it was something that kind of like I guess kind of lingered in the background, and something that always felt and still feels, I guess, present. And that's grief. And I think not grief in like a traditional sense or the most like common way that we see grief, which is often through the lens of like a loss of something physical. So it could be like a person or like an item or like moving. Like it's kind of like yeah, it's something different than like a physical loss, I guess. The loss that I think I can relate to the most lately is like the lot a grief that comes with or the loss that comes with change. And so like in my case, moving into a new job, but change is just really always around us constantly, right? And so I think with change, there's always going to be like a level of grief and a level of loss. So I thought maybe I would want to unpack this a little bit because when change happens,
Okay.
like almost all the time, I know for me, I don't often consider like the stages of grief or like kind of maybe not so much not the stages, but the processing of grief, I guess that like should or kind of like I don't know, maybe needs to happen. I know we'll talk about it, but um so yeah, so I think we carry loss silently every single day. And while it's not the typical kind of loss, again, can't speak for everyone, but what I know to be true for me is that I don't support that type of loss to the same extent. So I guess to go back to some of the recent changes in my life, and even though it was like honestly a great change, like something that I am proud of, I still didn't have to grieve the thing, or I still did have to and didn't grieve the thing that was before the change, if that makes sense. Um, yeah, I didn't do that initially. So I moved with the swing of things, kind of like shifting, going with the flow, something that I'm often told I do really well in. And I do think that's a positive quality. And then sometimes I also think that maybe it's not so positive as well. But anyways, through having a conversation with a friend of mine, it just kind of clicked like I didn't process this, right? Like that's why it was a couple months before I really considered, I guess, what I was feeling something, but I didn't really know what it was. And so, yeah, through a conversation with a friend of mine, I was like, wait a second, maybe this is what it was this whole time. It was grief. And it wasn't sadness, even though sometimes it was sad. And then it wasn't anger, even though sometimes I was angry, but I think it was just the process of grief, maybe. So I guess my first question, maybe not a question, like share any thoughts or
Mm-hmm.
comments or around the topic or what comes to mind for you. But and then as a
Yeah.
follow-up question, like actually I'll just stop there. Any thoughts or reflections on the first part?
Awesome. Yeah, sometimes you sound like a coach because, yeah, don't stack questions. Coach 101. One question at a time. Um, yeah, what was coming up for me as you were talking, and you kind of said it as well, is like I actually really embrace change like with a big open heart. And just to speak to that part, and I get so excited, I get caught up in all the novelty, new shiny thing, love it. And
Mhm.
for me, and I'm just as you were talking, I wonder if it's actually a human experience because some people really don't like change. So maybe not, maybe it's not everybody's experience, but that the grief comes after because it's once the
Mm,
excitement settles and the newness settles for me, then it's like, oh, this thing over here. And it's not even for me personally, it's not like I'm avoiding it. It's just that I'm caught up in all of the new and yeah, and then it kind of settles in after. So uh yeah, I guess when the reality sinks back in when I'm
mm,
back on like level ground. But anyway, that's just kind of part of what was coming up as you were talking. But the other thing, there's a term that is used when we talk about loss about somebody that's not like death of a pet, parent, friend, what you know, whomever, a death. And it's called disenfranchised grief, I think. And basically, it's the types of grief that get dismissed, perhaps, or even within ourselves. You know, we see it as not as much of a big thing, and some of those things are like the vision for what your life was gonna be, or like what your identity is, or like just these bigger things that didn't come to fruition, or yeah, change. I think would be in as part of that as well, depending. So yeah, disenfranchised grief. I don't know where that just came from, but that just came out of my head from somewhere, from something I've learned. But sometimes little nuggets pop in. But yeah, on the topic, I mean, I can certainly relate to, and I will probably talk about it later. But yeah, that just the experiencing loss that is maybe not so obvious
mm.
and just the impacts that that has, and I can say more later, but I think I'll leave it there for now.
Yeah, disenfranchised grief. I wrote that down because I heard it was something the way you explained it, it was something else, like another thing that I had heard it called. And so yeah, I wrote it down because like I'm gonna look into that. Um, but yeah, I just want to go back to like the having like that novelty of things. Or like the like enjoying the novelty of like change and something new and like kind of like riding on the excitement. Because I reflect on like a good portion, like along a lot of years of my life that I would often like feel that, right? Like if it was like moving to somewhere new and then before I would even like fully settle into a new place, I would like move again. And then like I would all of a sudden like I'd had a car and then I wanted to sell that car and then I got a new car and then like before yeah, like even though I didn't need to maybe look for a new car. It was like, but I was already shopping for like another car. So like, um, yeah, it's just interesting to think about it that way
Right.
because I don't think I ever forgot to there. I still think I spent a lot of time living in that novelty place or the excitement place, that I never even allowed myself to get into like the grief behind it all, I guess, right? Of like the reasons
Yeah,
why I wanted to move. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's interesting to think of it that way.
for
Mm,
sure.
yeah. And then you had mentioned about like kind of non-traditional grief, I guess, like loss of or like losing identity or like kind of where maybe one of the things that pops up for me is like where, you know, I thought I'd be in life at. Um, I'm not saying my age on here. No, I'm just kidding. But in my am I freezing up? No, maybe.
A little bit,
Okay.
but not bad.
Okay. Um, I was going to disclose my age to the internet if you didn't miss it, but I decided not to. Um, I'm gonna have like 3 kids and I'm gonna be married and I'm gonna own my home and I'm gonna travel like 5 times a year and I'm gonna, like all of these things. And so I think what happens, like, yeah, when that's not a reality, is that there is a level of grief that comes with that, right? Even though it's
Yeah.
something that I never had or never experienced. But we can grieve things that we don't have or that we don't get to experience or maybe never will get to experience. So I
Yeah.
guess like thinking of those non-traditional things that we grieve and so or grieve, so not like loss of a person physically or something like that, but um yeah, I guess like have you ever I guess experienced a something a loss or something grief like that in that sense, or um have you felt guilty for um kind of leaning into or like yeah maybe grieving something that you're like, oh, this is silly, like why am I grieving this, it doesn't make sense.
I mean, I'm going to answer this in kind of like, duh. duh. Duh, I've experienced that grief for sure. I'm a
Yeah,
human. And I don't mean to make light of your question. I just mean like it's a heck yes.
yeah.
The guilty part, I'm sure I have. That's not what stands out to me as much. So I'll just share from the place of what is standing out. And yeah, I definitely felt a lot of guilt around two things come to mind in my more recent leg of my journey. And that is when I left my job, my management position, working in peer support with the hospitals. I loved my job and I felt a lot of feelings when I decided to leave. But it was a lot of anger, like an extreme amount of anger. And if anybody talked to me or brought it up,
Mhm.
I was just like ready to blow a gasket. And I wouldn't have even called it grief. I was like, I'm mad about the injustice, but really it was grief. It totally was. And same thing, the other one that comes up for me is like grieving what I thought motherhood would be versus what it actually is. And that's not to say that what it actually is bad, but it is not at all what I thought it would be. And I even played the role for really long, trying of like, no, it's gonna be this way. Let me be a perfect mom. Let me create everything exactly right, and it'll work out. But no, like life takes us on a journey, and all I was doing was living in like this disillusionment, which I think has a kind of like a tie to grief a little bit. But um, yeah, so those are like the two big ones that stand out. Did I feel guilty about grieving those things? No, but if I was to think about something like maybe a smaller change or something like that, I can see where that would fit. I just don't have any direct examples coming to mind as I was thinking about that. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, what about yourself?
Yeah, like I mean I think just to go back to yeah, it's a hell yes from me. But it is true,
Yeah.
like I think we all experience levels of grief, right? And of course we all process it differently. Like I know someone like in my life who is really good with grief, like just really good at being able to like understand like exactly in the moment. They're like, yeah, I'm grieving. And like just be able to know it and move on from it. Like and work with it, I should say. Like it's not like in an avoidance way. Anyways, and I just admire that trait so much because I can relate to the anger part, right? Of like my grief often shows up as anger or resentment. And
Mm,
I think I talk about resentment a lot because I think I'm most familiar with resentment. Like it's one of those emotions that really comes creeping in for me sometimes where it's like yeah, especially when I do look at being at the age that I am. I'm still not telling people how old I am, but being in this part of life, I guess, and looking around and seeing others become parents or kind of like take different steps in their lives. and then the grief shows up as resentment sometimes, right? And thankfully I've worked to like not externalize that resentment as much as I have in the past. I would
Mm,
even say probably yeah, I don't know if I mean, I'm sure maybe I do it, maybe sometimes, but I try really hard to not externalize that and just to work with it. But um grief is often that primary um it's often the primary feeling, right? Where it's like the other things are like secondary. And as a result of
mm,
grief, right? Anger is a result of grief, or resentment and so that always helps me feel a little bit better and less guilty about how it shows up because um yeah, there's
mm.
something else that's like causing my like reaction, right? Um in terms of
Yeah.
guilty though, I
The
guess
pain.
feeling
Yeah.
guilty, oh, I think there might be a bit of a lag. Oh, maybe not. We're still
Not
just
on my end.
having all the internet problems sometimes. There's a little bit of a
Yeah.
lag or some pixely stuff going on here, so just had to bear with us. But um, yeah, going back to the guilty part, I guess. Yeah, I don't know if I think yes. Like I think yes, I have felt guilty about feeling or about some of the things that I guess have been caught up in grief with. Like I think about my most recent shift into a new job. And like I said, I am proud of that move and it yeah, I'm quite enjoying what I get to do now. But I did feel guilty for grieving the change or grieving
Mm,
like my old job because um I guess the way that everything kind of unfolded was like you should be lucky that you have a job, right? Like it's hard to find a job. It's hard to find a job that you can sustain, like live, comfortably on in
yeah.
this life and this time of life or whatever. And so I did feel guilty about yeah, I feel guilty about grieving that, right? Because it's like, well, you should be
Mm.
thankful, you should be happy you have a job. And so um
No, the should camp. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So I think the guilt really showed up in ways. Um yeah. And so I guess like the other thing is about that is like a small loss or a small change for one person. I mean, it won't be the same for other people, right? It could be
Yeah.
something that's really, yeah, astronomical or something that is more impactful, I guess, than what it would be for somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, I love this question. And when I was thinking of the questions I wanted to ask, I was most excited to hear this one, or to talk about this one. And that is, do you think that grief ever really ends?
Well, I'm going to use my son's most recent line. He's all into life lessons, and I asked permission to even share this, but um, he's like, I don't really know anything definitively, so I'm just going to say this is my theory right now. And I know you say you say you give yourself permission to change, but I like that. This is the theory. I believe no, it doesn't. And what comes to mind when I think about that question is we might have even talked about it here, but the ball in the box theory. Have you heard about the ball in the box theory?
I don't know, refresh my memory.
Okay. So it's basically this idea that like when we first maybe not first experience the loss, but when we first allow the loss to be experienced by ourselves, there's a ball in a box, but the ball is almost the size of the box. So it keeps hitting off all of the walls,
Mm,
all of the pain points. But as time evolves, it remains, but the ball gets smaller and the triggers become less.
mm,
And like I said, I don't know definitively because there's lots of things that I think I've tucked away for good, and then surfaces a trigger or something or a memory or something that I wasn't expecting, and whew,
yeah.
bam. So, and yet, will I say it happens a lot less frequently once it's been processed? Yes. But do I think it goes away in this current stage of my life? No, I do not think it goes away. I think we learn to hold it a little more tenderly. And I think, I, yeah, I I can't even say that the intensity of the trigger changes. It just doesn't happen as often because sometimes I get really thrown off about like how deep and fast it pulls me into something, even though it's been a long period of time and it hasn't happened in a while. So if the intensity goes up or down, I'm not sure, but
Hmm.
my thoughts are no. Yeah, or I can. They're not definitive either way. What about you?
Yeah, I think, and yes, yeah, I do remember hearing that kind of like analogy before, and I think I do agree, right? Like, I think, I don't think that grief ever ends. I just don't. Like, I think it's something that, I mean, and I do think it's like proven time and time again. Like, I would say there's a lot more of evidence out there to say that, grief really hangs in and hangs out with us for like our whole lives, right? And yeah, then what it would be like the other way of where we kind of like forget about it, or it just doesn't like I wouldn't even say it doesn't impact us. I think it impacts us like maybe differently, as years and as time
Yeah.
goes on. I remember working with someone in treatment, and I remember talking with that person about grief, and they were really stuck in their grief. And I think, yeah, I think a lot of people are, and I know that I was and still am sometimes, right? Um, but yeah, I remember having this conversation with this person, and one of the things that I shared was about we do carry our experiences with us, right? And so when we talk about grief, I think when we say things like, and like this sounds super insensitive, like, get over it, or like kind of like move past it, or, we shouldn't be spending so much time here.
Mm,
And actually I don't think that that is at all what yeah, what we need to do. Like, I think that sometimes there's a lot of shame that's put in that, like,
yeah.
and so when we honor our experience, we actually do continue to carry them. And yeah, like whether we kind of picture that, I share with the client, I'd picture that as like a suitcase or a backpack. We often talk about a grief backpack or something like that. But and we do carry it with us, but it's okay also to put it down, and that we don't always have to
Mm,
like carry the weight of it, right? So we can still honor it and live with it and be with it. But our arm will actually get tired if we continue to like carry the weight of it, I guess. Um, and so yeah, I've been reflecting myself a lot on that in the past little while
yeah.
here of how is it that I want to like what is the parts of grief or my grief that I can like like put down for a little bit, and not to forget or not to like move on or to get over it, but to just be like, yeah, this is a part of my experience now, and I'll continue to carry it with me forward, but I just don't want to like lift the weight of it like right now.
I love what you just shared because what that makes me think about is Dr. Kristen Neff talks about the level like self compassion and how we can feel mindful self compassion. And one of the things, what you were just talking about, brought up for me is like when I over identify with something and we make it so like if we're really, and there's been times in my life where I have really over identified with my grief and it results in kind of like a pity party in a like that lasts like a really
Mm,
long time. So it's almost the opposite. It's not like toughen up and get over it. It's like I cling to it as part of an identity kind of thing. Like I over identify with it. And what I love about what you just said about the backpack is like that gives us the permission to indulge the other parts of us, you know?
mm,
Like that's one part that comes with us, but it's also quite compassionate to indulge your fun. It's also quite compassionate to indulge your go-getter achiever, whatever parts, you know?
yeah.
That we can still honor it without it being our whole identity or because I've definitely experienced it being a large part of my identity at times.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
for
don't know if that made
sure.
sense.
No,
It just lit me up.
yeah, no, it does make sense. And I think that, yeah, I think that there's probably a lot of people who are listening, or that can identify with, over identifying with grief, or being like, I don't know, I can use the word stuck, I guess, but just like kind of like
Yeah,
being in it and feeling, really in it, and not really like unsure of how to put down that backpack, or to like
yeah,
disconnect from it, right? And I think especially about people, and I know you can probably relate to this, but just being in our fields of work, but so many people have so many layers and there's so much compounding grief
Yeah.
that I think makes it really hard to find the separation of like, how do I disconnect with grief when it's like one after the other, after the other, after the other. Um, and yeah, I just think that that's really hard. And so again, this conversation is not like to pinpoint, okay, let's disconnect and get away from grief, but it's more so to just,
Yeah.
yeah, I just want to acknowledge that. I acknowledge that it's really hard to do that sometimes
Yeah.
without the, yeah, skills or the support or yeah, the understanding, acknowledgement, all of those things. So I just wanted to throw that in there too, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. I do think that grief actually like has shaped, like my experiences with grief has shaped my life too, and like kind of like the path that I had ended up on or that I've stepped into, and the way that I like to show up and support others through their grief.
Yeah.
Because I think it helped with like empathy, or it helped with like kind of like this understanding of what it's like to be in a place where you're grieving or kind of feeling like this change or this loss or whatever. So I don't know if you have any thoughts kind of on like how your grief might have shaped, or your, yeah, the grief with change or whatever grief in whatever way you see it has like kind of shaped your life, or how it's kind of support, like have been helpful to support other people or
Hmm. Well, I think if we deny grief, if I deny myself the experience of grieving, I don't get a chance to be in the present. And that's a like, maybe not like directly all the time, but if I'm running from something, how can I be still and slow with myself at the same time? So I think it's taught me kind of how to, well, it's taught me how to hold space for myself, but it's also taught me then that's a ripple outward. What we give to
Mhm.
ourselves inward, we can ripple outward. So it has taught me how to hold space for others. You use the word empathy. I think it's really, I think that's an important word because it is so easy to be dismissive of somebody's, I'm putting this in air quotes because I don't necessarily want to quantify it, but small grief,
Mm,
perhaps this disenfranchised grief that they might be
mhm,
experiencing, it is easy to be dismissive. People tell you to think more positively. People think that, and if we sit in just the feelings, like the energetic experience with somebody else, just like if we do that for ourselves, it's like such a gift. And I do think for a lot of people, and I'm probably gone off the question here, but it's just what's coming up for me is that like I think for a lot of people that grief does stay stuck until it is witnessed
mhm,
and it is held. Not you said like the non-judgmental part, yeah, and so like learning that has really changed the game in how I definitely will support myself, but also how I support others. And a lot of times, like I'll speak from like my work perspective, like when I'm working with clients and they're telling me all these things and they're either really fired up or they're really emotional, and I'm like, something doesn't match like what they're describing versus what, and it's like there's this underlying thing, and it's like, and I don't like to necessarily name things for people. I like to do an exploration circle and like, see where it settles in. But a lot of the times, yeah, the grief goes missed in people themselves because they're not necessarily aware of it, and myself included in that, like we were talking about earlier, so being able to find people, like if like for me, I offer that, I try, I'm a human, but to offer that supportive space where I am witnessing. And I think this was something for a real thing that we did. But Jess, you said something when we were recording that earlier, and it's exactly that. Like to be to not fix people when they're telling us, I feel really lost in the fact that I changed my job, and I feel regretful even, or I feel, however that's showing up, for us to just hold that and not change it, you
mhm,
know and that might need to be done several times depending on the weight of what the grief is. I'm not saying witness once and yada, it's gone, because like we said, we carry the experiences with us, but with enough compassionate landing places, it softens. I feel the grief softens. So I think it definitely has shaped how I show up for myself and the ripple outward for others in you used a great word, empathy, with empathy. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
I
thanks
feel
for
like I
sharing
talked
that.
around that question. But
No, I was just gonna say thanks for sharing that because I think like it's just a really good reminder of the fixing part, right? And so um yeah, like the thing that comes to mind for me is like the rescuing, right? Of like if someone is feeling, bad or they're sad or whatever, like I'm not gonna lie, like my first reflex is like, oh, I just wanted that to be better for that person, especially if it's someone who I'm close to or who I really care about. And honestly, even if it's someone I have no idea who they are. Like it could be a total
yeah,
stranger. Like I automatically want to be like, oh, you need this, here's this, or you want that, like, because I think because we carry experiences with us of um yeah, that we don't probably want other people to have to feel some of those same things or kind of so yeah, I just think that's a good reminder that it's not about fixing, and it's not saying that we can't want to fix things. Like I think that it's actually a positive
yeah,
thing.
it's
It shows that
human.
you're yeah, it shows that you're a human, right? It
Yeah,
shows that you want to show up and you want to support and you want to help people. um and also that we can hold space and not fix things, and that's often, yeah, just as appreciated as kind of anything else, right? Because yeah, grief needs to be witnessed. This is a
yeah.
quote, isn't that a quote or something by somebody?
I don't know.
I don't remember. It just, when you said that, it struck me as something about it needs to be witnessed. Anyways, I'll have to look it up later.
It could be.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure. I don't want to say it's like a Brene Brown thing, but she has something about something needs to be witnessed, isn't it?
Shame.
Shame needs, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
I
That's
feel
right.
grief is the same too, but grief
Yeah.
and shame definitely need to be witnessed.
Yeah.
I think because they're hard to hold for ourselves, right? So when it's witnessed, like the love or the compassion, like when it's witnessed in a healthy space,
Mm,
like it's amplified so that that kind of denser, heavier energy can actually come be experienced in that space of safety, right? So
yeah.
we may need less witnessing of, if we're really good with excitement or happiness or whatever, we may need less witnessing of that,
Yeah. Yeah.
of those emotional experiences. But again, these are thoughts. I allow myself to change my opinion if I learn more.
Exactly. Exactly. I guess on that same kind of note though, like what do you think we are quicker to kind of downplay some of this, like what was that word, disenfranchised grief, rather than something that's like yeah, like really, really like obvious, like a death or, like a loss of a job or something that's really connected to something like permanent or something like that. Like, where do you think it's easier for us to do that?
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting? I'm going to answer that question, but what just popped in my head as you were talking? Do you know what we also do to people when the grief is obvious? If they don't grieve in the way that is stereotypical, then we're like, are you okay? Like, you
Yeah,
just lost somebody. Are you,
totally.
Funny that we do the opposite.
So true.
Anyway,
So
just
true.
thinking about that as you said that, I
Yes.
was like, my God, what's wrong with us? Um,
Where do we start? No, I'm just kidding.
Um, but yeah, to answer your question, I did reflect on this one a little bit because I wanted to think about it. And I do think, I'm hoping you have other wise things to add to the conversation, but I think part of it is conditioning because generationally we have been passed down. And it's so funny because I had a conversation with a man at the bar. And he came in and he was like, well, what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm a coach. He said, well, what does that mean? And I was like, well, it's like not therapy, but it can be similar to that experience of talking to somebody and, whatever. And he's like, "Oh, I come from the generation of suck it up." He's like, "I'm not into all this woke nonsense of like talking about your feelings, whatever." And so I think slowly we have titrated a different experience of how we show up with ourselves. But yeah, I think that's wired into a lot of us because we were raised with people from that generation of like, "You suck it up, baby." Like, come on. That's what I would say, what comes to top of mind for me. But yeah, pull up your bootstraps, toughen up, like thicker
Yeah.
skin, like oh my god, like all the things.
Yeah.
And it's like being soft is bad. Like being soft is
Yeah.
bad. Or being in your experience. So yeah.
It's just so funny to
What about
me.
you?
And it's like not funny, but it's also so funny to me that like first of all, I'm gonna be really honest. I didn't know what woke meant until like well, I won't say like super recently, but it's been like within the very recently, kind of recently. Anyways, but it's just really funny to me that like expressing feelings is like woke viewed as like woke
Yeah.
nonsense. It's like
Yep.
emotions are woke. Like what?
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
yeah, it's just anyway, like I said, it's funny, like, but like not in like a ha-ha way, like in a holy, you know what way. Like, anyways, just had to say that. But I do think you're right. Like I do think that conditioning has like does play a part of it. For sure. And I think and maybe anyway, I'm gonna share what first comes to my mind for me. And I think this is a result of conditioning actually is like because we don't understand it, right? So it's
Mm,
like we don't understand why, a change can result in grief or a feeling of sadness or a feeling, especially if it's a positive change. Like I'm going to use the example of, relationships, right? And like whether that's an intimate relationship or whether that's a friendship or whether that's a parent-child relationship, whatever that looks we like when
yeah.
we disconnect ourselves from relationships that doesn't serve us in a positive and healthy way where we're not respected where our needs aren't met and et cetera, like that's a
Yeah.
positive change for us, right? That's a healthy disconnection of a relationship to be able to practice our own, self care or whatever. But
Respect.
it's so sad, right? Like we still grieve that. And I remember this was like years and probably when I first started my like child and youth care career, so like years ago. I remember having a conversation at that time with a peer of mine. And it was like, yeah, but like life is going to be so much different for that person. Like they're just going to be able to go and, they've gotten away from that abusive partner and their shitty family, and now everything is going to be so much better and for them. And I don't know why that person is so sad about it. Like it's so happy for them. It's they're going to be so much better.
Right.
And I remember like just thinking about that to be like, wow, like what a lack of understanding it is to really see how change impacts us,
Yeah.
right? Even if like even if yeah, I can see where that person was coming from, right? Like I do believe that a person who like maybe that specific person whoever we were talking about or working with at that time, like maybe years later, right? Maybe down the road when they've been able to process it, maybe life does turn out to be better or different or whatever in a more positive way. Um, but that doesn't take away from the fact that they still had to go through the experience. And when you're in
Right.
that experience, it doesn't, yeah, it doesn't feel like, oh, thank God I'm out of it. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm making sense or I'm not articulating what I'm trying to say very well, maybe, but it's like, yeah.
I'm leaning way in because no, I'm with you. I feel like um what is missed a lot of times is that regardless how if it was an unhealthy relationship dynamic doesn't matter. If you were in a relationship with that person, you most likely had a form of love for them, you know?
Hmm.
So regardless regard oh, are we good?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. I looked crazy there for a second because I was all okay. Can you see
Okay.
me?
Yeah.
My connection is unstable. Story of my life. Um, But yeah, no, like, and I remember hearing a quote, it's like a pretty popular one, I don't know, but like, grief is all the love we can no longer express.
Mm,
And so if we had a relationship with somebody, there is a level of care there. We don't stay in a relationship with somebody if there's no
yeah,
level of care or affection or love, you
yeah,
know? So no matter how it shows up, even if it's unhealthy. So yeah, I do think lack of understanding, great point. And I that's just what came up for me as you're saying that. It's like, yeah, because there is still that loss, and in this case perhaps love, care, affection, quality time, like whatever, there's still that loss there regardless if it wasn't healthy.
yeah.
Like, yeah. Anyway, I probably just repeated what you said, but
No, no, it's so
it was
true.
clicking in my brain.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I don't know. It's sometimes I'm like, do I even make sense?
Yes,
What am I
you're very
saying?
wise.
But like addiction is the same thing too, right? Like, in these conversations that they
Yeah,
have, it's like, yeah, when you look at removing, active addiction from your life, it's yeah, it is a pretty healthy and positive thing. But we can't fully embrace sobriety or recovery until we grieve the addiction. And we don't grieve addiction in like the substance itself. It's like the people, the places, the things, the emotional attachment that we've had to that, the ways that we felt connected, like all of those things are the things that we grieve. And I think it's hard for people to understand.
yeah,
I've sat with so many people where um, they're just trying so hard to break the cycle of addiction and they don't understand why. They're feeling
yeah,
so sad when this is such a great thing. It's the only thing that they've ever wanted was to be sober, but yet it's like, wait a second, I have to feel all of this stuff to get to the like the I'll use end very loosely, but to the end, right, of like
yeah,
and moving into something bigger and better. So yeah, I think there is a lack of understanding. And I do think, like I said earlier, I do think that is as a result from conditioning, right? Because where it's like, yeah, wow, you're clean, you're sober, that's so good. Or you're away from that abusive relationship, that's amazing, good for you. And it's like, that's meant to hold space in a good way. And also super invalidating, right? It's like, wait a second, people are,
dismissive. Yeah, it's
yeah,
dismissive.
it is dismissive of what I'm actually feeling or what my experience actually is, right? Where it's like everyone's
Yeah,
congratulating me, but I feel like I feel shit like shit. I feel like this is the worst.
yeah.
Um, so
And that's where like leaving it as a question versus assuming. But that's, oh, can you hear me? Yeah, I think like that dismissal part, like it, if we just didn't assume how people were feeling and we asked questions instead. But that's
mm,
hard to do, especially if we're happy that someone left the toxic relationship, we're happy that someone's sober. It's not like an intentional, I want to dismiss your feelings. But when we can stay in a place of like, well, how are you feeling now? Like, I
mm,
went to treatment for an eating disorder. People were so happy gaining weight and congratulating me on gaining weight, and here I was panicking. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, I'm supposed to feel better, like I'm doing the right things. I'm putting again in air quotes. And like, no, there was so many other emotions going on.
yeah,
And every time someone congratulated me on gaining weight and looking healthier, I wanted to blow my lid. Like, I
yeah,
was like, and I stopped going out and seeing people for a long time because it became so overwhelming of like people wanting to congratulate my success, but to me it was so jumbled.
yeah.
So yeah, if we could ask more questions and not assume how people are feeling, I think we'd probably save some of that dismissiveness. But again, we are human, so
Yeah, that's so,
we
and I
could be
think
aware.
it's so true. And I think it goes back to that like experience of like wanting to like fix or like step in
Yeah,
there to like motivate someone to like keep going and doing the right thing, or like I think it does come
yeah,
from this place of um yeah, of wanting to just be nice and be kind and try to like be motivating, but yeah, it just doesn't feel that way for the person who's
yeah,
receiving that, right?
yeah.
So I guess the last question I have is, if you could say something to your past self during that time of grief, whatever it was that you were going through, what would it be?
Yeah, I thought about this. There's two things I think I would say. And the first, I'm totally stealing it from a TikToker. She teaches her daughter has autism and she's teaching her emotional like cues and things. And so something she always says to her daughter, okay, I see you feel that way. It's okay you feel that way. And I just love that. I just love that validation of like, it's okay to feel that way. But I think
Mhm.
more importantly for me, and I don't know if this will resonate with people, grief can feel so heavy and painful and relentless at times, especially if there's an emotional attachment to it, which for me there has been. So I think what I would say to myself is, I promise it's going to pass. Because sometimes when you're in the depth of it, it feels like, bless you. Sometimes when you're in the depth of it, it feels like this is permanent, especially if it's lingering. So yeah, I promise it's going to pass.
Yeah.
Like you can breathe. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, I love that. Um, and the first thing you shared, can you, how was it you said it, or how does the little girl say,
Uh, it's okay to feel this
it's
way.
okay to feel this way. Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
do it this. It's okay to feel this way.
With the
Her daughter's five.
conviction. I was gonna say with the conviction. See, we're raising humans to feel feelings and not to have to get over things. And I don't care if people
Yeah.
think that's woke, whatever.
We're
Um,
supposed to evolve.
yeah, exactly.
What
Um,
about you, Jess?
yeah, so for me, I also had a few different thoughts, I think, but um I would have really appreciated to hear that like that thing was going to change me, but it wouldn't destroy me because I think I felt that way, right? Like, and the truth
Mm,
is that that
yeah.
it did change me, right? Like I haven't been the same person um from that experience and then other like many other experiences along the way. But
Yeah.
that I would get through it and then it's not going to like destroy me or it won't be like the end of me. Because yeah, I think grief feels like that, man. Like when you're so down
Yeah.
far down in it, like and I think grief feels heavy now with all the things that I know, let alone um yeah, with things that I didn't know. So I think that would be kind of one of those
Yeah.
things that would have been helpful to hear.
Yeah, I love that.
Um, I think, yeah, I think then that's, yeah, I think that was it. Um, I'm glad to have been able to have this conversation. Like I said, there was a couple of questions that I was really looking forward to getting to talk about. So I'm happy we were able to do that. Despite our internet challenges. Hopefully, you guys won't hear too much of that. I'll try to edit it as much as I think we've been doing a pretty good job at that, actually. One thing I can
Yeah.
say is that this whole experience, I feel like I could add like a video editor or something to my resume now. Like probably not actually. I take that
Building
back.
skills.
Yeah, like I do definitely, I can do it. A, I don't like to do it. B, it still takes me a lot of time, but I can do it. So hopefully you guys won't hear too much of the impact of our shitty internet over here. But anyways, so other than that, as always, like, subscribe, follow, let us know what you thought of the episode. And remember, it's a beautiful day to have a beautiful day. And until next time, stay soulful, everyone.
Thanks for tuning into Soulful. We hope you found something meaningful to carry with you on your journey. And if you enjoyed today's episode and want to show your support, we invite you to subscribe, share the podcast, and leave a review wherever you listen.
And if you're eager for more, you can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Soulful the Podcast for additional content and updates. Until next time, stay soulful.